people in jail.
And the presidency.
Well, Maxwell's in jail, and there was an investigation.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Epstein was arrested during Trump's presidency. Maxwell, I think, was arrested, and then she was finally tried and charged, during the
committee. The thousands, dude.
We're just amplifying.
I'm not amplifying.
Who was murdered?
But the committee said that they'd spoken.
But they're being emailed. No,
you're talking
in the court
about
of law.
Yeah, I'd love to see him in a court of law. I'd like to see him deposed. I'd like to see the rules. I'd like to see them unredacted. No, it is absolutely bananas just to sit here and be like, oh,
let me let Peter finish.
Republicans, maggots, and anyone in the GOP are doing a horrible job of trying to run cover for Donald Trump when it comes to the Epstein files. And it just looks like it's just going to continue to be the case because these guys are not laying up in any way, shape, or form. In this clip, we are going to see PoliticsGirl as well as Phillip really corner these maggots on the panel, these Donald Trump supporters, defenders, when it comes to the Epstein files, and ask them some questions that they struggle to give very, very basic answers to. As usual, let's watch the clip in full. I will share my opinion halfway through, but I'm going to save it mainly towards the end. Let's get into it.
Good evening. I'm Phillip in New York. Let's get right to what America's talking about. Bill Clinton, Jeffrey Epstein, and setting a precedent. Tonight, the former president is denying having any knowledge of Epstein's crimes, and his message was loud and clear. He saw nothing, he did nothing, and he did nothing wrong. Now, those were his words under oath in a historic deposition as he answered questions about his past relationship with Epstein. One of the big takeaways was that Clinton addressed this photo of himself in a hot tub with a woman whose face is redacted. He says he did not know her and he did not have sex with her. Clinton's testimony caps off a high-profile 2 days in the Republican-led panel's Epstein probe. Hillary Clinton spoke yesterday. The former president's name appears many times in the Epstein files, and so does the current president, President Trump's, and neither have been accused of any crimes. The question is now, what does this mean for Trump? Here's the top Democrat on the House Oversight panel.
The House Republicans have set a new precedent. And that new precedent now includes bringing in for depositions presidents, former presidents, and first ladies. We now want President Trump to come in and to testify under oath in front of the Oversight Committee. We want the First Lady, who we know had a relationship as well with Jeffrey Epstein, to come in under oath and testify to the Oversight Committee.
And President Trump seems very much aware of that precedent.
I don't like seeing him deposed, but, they certainly went after me a lot more than that. I don't like seeing him. Look, I like him, and I don't like seeing him deposed.
Again, the only time you will hear President Trump saying nice things about Bill Clinton is when it comes to the Epstein files. It's really weird. But that being said, I mean, is President Trump worried? Should he be worried, Peter, that he could be brought in?
Why?
Because is there not a precedent that has been set?
It is true that Donald Trump's name is mentioned hundreds, thousands of times in the Epstein files, because the Epstein files include his entire email inbox that has every news digest that occurred while Trump was the #1 cultural figure.
Come on, you
running
cannot
for
seriously
president.
believe this. This is so lame, man. He's not in there because of his email drips.
No, he literally is.
God, that's so lame. We all know why Trump is
What about the FBI interviews that they withheld?
The same ones who are from folks who are viewed non-credible.
What about
No,
them?
what about the NPR thing that just came out? They've actually removed them. You sound crazy. No, and the poor women who have gone through this to just sit here and say, oh, he's only in there because of his emails. That's not true. There are people who have actually credibly accused him of crimes that were removed.
Credibly, or anything, like literally nothing that
you're talking about it. You're talking about there being emails. No, you're talking about
court of law.
Yeah, I'd love to see him in the court of law. I'd like to see him deposed. I'd like to see the rules. I'd like to see them unredacted. No, it is absolutely bananas just to sit here and be like, oh,
let me let Peter finish.
There was one member of Congress who voted against this because of all the hysteria. Clay Higgins from Louisiana, and God bless him, because he said, listen, we have never done this in the past where you release just everything, not relevant files, everything. And so there are folks who are having their lives ruined because they emailed somebody, because they were mentioned peripherally, because Epstein said, hey, look at this thing this person did. And the next thing you know, they're in the Epstein
Can
files.
I speak whenever he's done?
When he's done, you can speak.
Great.
Go ahead.
People who have had their lives ruined are not people whose names happen to be in these files. The people who have, I don't know why you're looking at me like that.
I'm
the
waiting
people
for
who
the
have had their
actual
lives
crime that we're
ruined.
talking about
Can we
that
talk
hasn't
about
been
the tragedy
Here,
and
now-
crisis
now
of
you
this
gotta let her
horrific
finish,
crimes
okay?
that include
Let's try to do this one
murder
at a time.
and sex trafficking and torture and rape of children and young people without dissolving into this is hysteria? It's not hysteria. There are literally millions and millions of pages, and we are not looking into them. We are redacting them. Our government is covering them up. And Trump is scrambling around to get his name reacted and telling everyone he's totally exonerated when he is not. Then we're spending all of our time going after the Clintons right now. And I don't know a single Democrat or leftist who hasn't publicly said if Clinton is proved part of the Epstein files, we should lock him up. Lock him up. Throw away the key. Lock her up. Lock anyone up who partook or helped or enabled this group of horrible people with their repulsive crimes. But for you to sit here at this table and say that the victims are the people who have emails in this thing and not the women who were trafficked, it is sickening and it makes the country sick.
Okay, let me ask a question here.
Who is murdered?
Hey, hold on a second. If President Clinton is mentioned in the Epstein files, there are photos of him with Epstein, just like there are photos of Trump with Epstein. But there are no, just to put it in your framework, no credible accusations against him. Why did he testify today? And why did the president not testify today? Because it seems to me they're in the same boat.
Well, I think, first of all, I would like to say that if Peter Mayer is willing to take up for Donald Trump in a situation like this, not take up, but just be honest about something, then I think that we should probably listen. I totally agree. Look, first of all, I understand your passion, and I'm with you that we have to get justice for these victims. But that's not how our country works. We work off of the fact that people are innocent until they're proven guilty.
Okay.
And until you can bring something credible
I'm still
to the
waiting
table,
for
then I
an
don't
answer
think
to
that
my
that's-
question.
Well,
If
but
Bill
that's a valid-
Clinton
that's a
was
valid point,
forced,
Abby. We
no,
can't
wait,
just
but I
accuse
want to
people
hold on.
without-
I am asking a question. If Bill Clinton was forced to testify despite the absence of credible accusations against him, what is the justification for not having President Trump do the same?
Has the committee called him?
What is okay, well let me play what James Comer says about why he's not going to call President Trump. Listen.
Ranking Member Garcia asked President Clinton, quote, should President Trump be called to answer questions from this committee? And President Clinton said, that's for you to decide. And the president went on to say that the president, Trump, has never said anything to me to make me think he was involved.
So he says, okay, close the book. We're done here because President Clinton said he'd never talked to President Trump about doing crimes with Epstein. Are you kidding me?
If the FBI has these files and there's an investigation that has went on, Democrats are the only one, by the way, who's put anybody in jail. Hello, Ghislaine Maxwell. And this is about politics. We know it's about politics, and they just said it's about politics, and we all know it's about politics. Even the Clintons who said, sure, I don't want to testify until they make me testify. They made them testify. They were like, well, let's do it out in the open. I have had one Republican after another come up and go, look at all the crazy stuff Donald Trump's doing. Well, at least he's doing it out in the open, so it's got to be okay. Let's have this transparency. Democrats are screaming that right now. And I'm with you, Leo. Whoever did anything wrong, let's put them all in jail. I don't care.
Okay, hold on, Beth.
I just want to say really quickly, I don't understand these people that are defending Donald Trump. I don't get the standpoint and the premise that they're coming from because, once again, these guys should be thinking about the midterms. And I believe when it comes to the Epstein files, this isn't a partisan issue. This isn't a partisan issue at all. Everybody believes that whoever has done any wrongdoing should be held accountable. So these guys trying to run cover in the way that they are, do they not see everybody in that's Republican? Do they not see how this looks? James Comer got standing up there and saying, justifying the reason why he's not going to call Donald Trump. It's a poor justification and it's absolutely embarrassing. These guys sitting at the table trying to justify. It's an embarrassing justification that they're all trying to do. Because the reality is this, if it was good enough to bring in Bill Clinton and depose him, well, according to that logic, Donald Trump and the First Lady, Melania, should definitely be brought in. Melania had a relationship with him and Donald Trump was his best friend for how many years? So I don't understand why they believe that what they're trying to do makes sense. It doesn't. And it's only going to be pushing more people away from the Republicans come the midterms. But some things are bigger than politics. And the Epstein victims, way bigger than politics.
I think you're all slightly barking up the wrong tree completely. Nobody is ever going to go behind bars for any sort of sexual impropriety on this island. Why? Because there's no proof. At this stage, it is going to be one word against another. And if you're going off emails, they are always open to interpretation. You're literally looking at syntax when it says things like, thank you for the young girls. Okay, was that a young girl who was 14 or was that a young girl who was 21 and it was a 70-year-old man? There is no hard evidence in these emails. What we've done in the UK is looked at the financial impropriety, which can be traced. So Prince Andrew has been arrested, ex-former prince. He's been arrested and investigated. Peter Mandelson, who was the ambassador of the UK to this country until a couple of weeks ago, until a few months ago actually, and then he got arrested a couple of weeks ago. They have a paper trail in which they say, I'm just coming out of 10 Downing Street. I'm going to call you about policy. Now, that is a crime. That is misconduct in public office.
That's a crime. That's a crime you can prove. It's the same reason that we got Al Capone
it's also funny
on
because
tax
that might be a crime in the UK. It is not a crime in the UK. But let me just hold on a second. Let me just. I think you're very correct, right? A true investigation would actually look at things that we can prove. Right. But unfortunately, we're dealing with the political circus that we have been given. Okay, we're living in the world that we have, and in this particular world, the Republicans on this committee have decided to call a former president and a former first lady, and now they claim that even having done that, the current president and current first lady, who also have ties to Epstein, are immune from similar testimony. I am still trying to understand how that makes sense.
I mean, I think the distinction, and again, there should be no reason why anyone doesn't testify, even if it's just to say, answer it. And Trump has talked plenty about his break with Epstein. They were friends. He's been on video with him. And then there was a falling out, I think, around 2004, prior to a lot of these allegations.
Witness, and everything he says is so
true. But what I'm
and
saying
it's not under oath.
The difference here is that, former President Clinton traveled with Epstein. He's not in photos socially, he's in photos traveling and all this, and there's people with blacked out boxes, which automatically makes it massively incriminating.
Abby, to answer your question, I think anyone involved should be able to go testify and get justice for these victims and closure for the families of those that are no longer with us. I don't think there should be any. I want to just agree with your point. The point that I was making earlier is that you can't just throw out empty accusations at people until they've been charged with a crime, and you have the evidence to do that. That was my point. But I agree with you that if people are implicated, then they should go testify to either clear their name or provide the facts.
What are they going to say? What are they going to say? Clinton was not going to turn around when there's pictures of him in a hot tub and they're going to go, who was that woman next to you? He's not going to go, oh yeah, she was 15 actually, I remember.
I tend to agree.
It's a complete waste of everybody's
agree.
time and money.
This whole thing, to use your phraseology, the entire enterprise on Capitol Hill is barking up the wrong tree because there are real investigations that could be had, and it's not clear that anybody in the government has ever done it or is currently doing it. And here's just one of the Epstein survivors, Jess Michaels. She's actually responding to Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, who has claimed repeatedly that Trump has been exonerated. But she says this, we as a collective have not cleared the president of wrongdoing. He is a person of interest. He should testify. You don't need to lie. Obstruct, or delay transparency when you're innocent. And they've also made the point that the FBI has not talked to them, okay? Even just to get to the beginning of the story. I'm not saying that's the end of the story, but the FBI has not talked to these victims. So the question of whether there is anybody out there doing anything real outside of this political madness remains on the table today after a week.
But that's why I disagree with what Bev said, where you said there's not going to be any people put behind bars for these sexual crimes, because you can't just go through emails and be like this. There are lots of other things that we don't know about. They haven't talked to the victims. The victims haven't said this is the person, that then they could have then followed the evidence through the emails without the redactions and do it. Go and search the farm. Go and search the thing in you might not be able to get anything in New Mexico. Thank you. Go with body dogs and see if there's anything there. There might be a lot of evidence. So to say there's thousands of victims and we are never going to see any justice for them, I think is absolutely.
Well, the committee,
yes,
the committee,
thousands,
but
dude.
the
We're just
committee
amplifying.
Said, the
I
committee,
just want to know
amplifying.
who was murdered.
but the
Who was
committee said
murdered?
that they'd spoken to the victims, and they said they've spoken to the victims, and not one of them has said President Trump did anything wrong. So if the victim, where is this crime?
But that's what she
if there
just
are
said.
no
Not-
victims,
they haven't
if
said
there
he
was
did nothing.
somebody.
But Donald Trump has
But
said
they have.
it's
They
not
came out.
just.
They said
I mean,
it's
she
not
just
Donald
said,
Trump,
she
it's
said
his whole
here,
orbit.
we have not cleared President Trump of wrongdoing. So I don't know the truth of the matter, but that's what she says,
It's
and
his
she's one of the
associates.
victims.
It's his cabinet
and look,
members.
but
It's
again,
his
I think that
donors.
we are. The point actually about the Trump thing is not to get stuck on Trump.
Right.
It's actually about whether or not there is equanimity being handed out here by people who are in power. And the answer is very clearly no. They're not. They didn't show up at Lex Wexner's deposition. He is somebody who is very close to Epstein. Financially, yes, the money. Right. So again, this is a circus. It's a sideshow. We all know that. But the victims have a right to be pissed off about this.
The real question here is what happens in 10 months when the new Democratic majority in the House is sworn in? What changes and what questions are asked when Robert Garcia is not the ranking member, but he is the chairman of that committee and could subpoena somebody to come testify. Whether there's something there or not, whether whatever everybody's saying is true or not, at least we can ask questions there. The question is, what happens if he don't show up? What if he just gives them the middle finger and says, I ain't got to come?
But Democrats had the House and the Senate from 2021 to 2020.
And we put people in jail.
And the presidency.
Well, Maxwell's in jail, and there was an investigation.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Epstein was arrested during Trump's presidency. Maxwell, I think, was arrested, and then she was finally tried and charged, during the first part of the first 2 years of Biden's presidency when the Democrats were in charge. Sure, but I'm cynical on this.
I take your point about. I take your point that this has not been a major issue for Democrats.
I wouldn't say the justice system is political.
I think that if Democrats want to make this a real issue and not just a political football, they're going to have to prove that they're really interested in getting to the bottom of this.
That's the point.
And that we will find out if they do take control of Congress what they end up doing with it.
And the bigger issue as well is who was Jeffrey Epstein working for? I'm sure the politicians are all happy for us to be talking about potential sexual crimes. What about the political crimes? It looks like he was working for every government around the world. Working for Russia, working for America, working for the British, working for whoever would buy his compromising material, whatever, all those cameras doing on that island.
Alluded to that today, so that's a very big unanswered question here. Next for us, how will AI be used in war? And what?
Interesting. You don't need to lie when innocent. One of the comments from one of the actual Epstein victims. And that's the reason why I say I don't get what Republicans are trying to do. Anybody with eyes can literally see that the way that Donald Trump and his administration, the DOJ, are handling the Epstein files, this is someone, I'm not saying he's guilty, but this is somebody who's acting like he's guilty. I'm just being 100% real, because it just doesn't make any sense. The way that he's acting, the way that he's conducting himself doesn't make any sense, and it just doesn't add up. It doesn't add up at all. Because if you are innocent, do what you said you was going to do on the campaign trail. When you said that you would release the Epstein files, release the Epstein files, do what you said you was going to do. People that are part of his administration, formerly Dan Bongino, Kash Patel, these are people who said that they're going to get to the bottom of the Epstein files. And when elected and put in a position to be able to do that, if anything, you're actually taking part in the cover-up of the Epstein files. So it just doesn't make sense in any way, shape, or form. And you know what? I'm sick of that constant question. Why didn't Democrats do something when they were in power? Listen, first and foremost, I do believe that people that were involved in the Epstein files should have been brought to justice. I do believe that to be the case. And you know what? Democrats should have done something about it. But all it is I will respond to and say is this. Joe Biden did not run on that. Joe Biden was not questioned about that. And most importantly, Joe Biden is not mentioned in the Epstein files. That's the reason. So this premise doesn't even make any sense. If there's even a slither of a chance that the most powerful man in the world was involved in disgusting activities alongside Jeffrey Epstein, then yes, something should be done, and people have the right to be able to know about that. Furthermore, what we have to take a look at and understand is this. If Donald Trump is running defense and running cover for his powerful friends, whether they be from a business standpoint, whether they be from a political standpoint, something needs to be done. And those individuals need to be held accountable. That is most definitely not something that should be questioned or a discussion to be had. Some things are just very simple and straightforward. Let me know your guys' thoughts on this exchange in the comment section below. And while you guys are down there, do me a favor, hype up this video. Let's try and get it in front of as many people as possible. That's the best way you can help me and you can help this channel move forward. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next clip.